Throughout America, Old Glory proudly waves every June 14th, Flag Day, the day the Stars and Stripes brandishes proudly, the stars representing the 50 American states, the 13 stripes representing the 13 original colonies, the red representing the blood of American soldiers, the white the purity of their heart, and the blue the courage of their heroics on the battlefield starting in the American Revolution and onward. Originally, the Continental Congress, the governing body of the colonies during the American Revolution, had a stripes flag with a Union Jack in the corner. But on June 14, 1777, they adopted the first Stars and Stripes, with 13 stars in a circle representing those colonies fighting for their independence against the British. That army was led by George Washington, who, according to legend, employed a local seamstress, Betsy Ross, to design flags for his soldiers. The Continental Congress supposedly employed her services to design the flag, and the Stars and Stripes were her invention. This is probably legendary, but it is true that the design was originally approved in 1777 by the Continental Congress and became a piece of Americana, as did the legend. In June of 1916, Woodrow Wilson made Flag Day a national holiday, increasing the patriotism of the American people. And the Stars and Stripes have been celebrated ever since then, as more stars have been added, the last version coming out in July of 1960 after Hawaii became the 50th state.
Father's Day, a time to celebrate fathers of all backgrounds who have done what they can, sacrificing as they should, to help their children become the best versions of themselves they possibly can be, to give them more than they had. This holiday, with its many celebrations that involve gifts of toolkits, taking Dad out to lunch and buying him nice coffee and Starbucks gift cards, has origins back to the Middle Ages, when the consecration of St. Joseph, the stepfather of Jesus in Catholic theology, was extraordinarily important for the religious in Europe. These traditions were brought with the consecration of St. Joseph being prayed quite often by the Spanish when they came to North America in the 16th century. But the modern origins of Father's Day and its celebration in the United States are far more grim. The Monongah mining disaster in December of 1907 in West Virginia inspired the lamentation and celebration of fathers throughout the entire United States. Mining was an extremely dirty and dangerous enterprise, with men often becoming sick with scar lung, black lung, tuberculosis, and pneumonia. The mines were also extraordinarily unsteady and dangerous, with cave-ins, explosions, and collapses being quite common, leading to the deaths of thousands of men throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. On the morning of December 5, 1907, an explosion at Mines 6 and 8 of the Fairmont Mining Company in Monongah led to the deaths of 362 men, 250 of which were fathers, with families soon mourning and lamenting them. This terrible tragedy, the worst mining disaster in U.S. history, somehow became the basis for a celebration of Thanksgiving, love, and levity. Miners' Day is still commemorated on December 6 in honor of those who lost their lives at Monongah. However, Father's Day is also inextricably linked to another holiday, its twin, Mother's Day. The first official Mother's Day celebration in modern U.S. history was that in May of 1909 when Anna Jarvis honored her mother, who was a feminist and social activist. Taking inspiration from Jarvis's celebrations a couple months earlier and still reeling from Monongah, a local Methodist priest held a celebration commemorating the loss of life for 250 fathers and 360 miners. The first official celebration, however, of fathers came with Sonora Dodd in Spokane, Washington, in a much lighter and more celebratory manner in June 1910. She was celebrating her father, a Civil War veteran, which had become one of the most honored classes in America at that time. Dodd's celebration gained national attention and became a popular holiday, but it was always trailed Mother's Day in popularity. Despite this, throughout the 1910s, public figures such as Woodrow Wilson and William Jennings Bryan encouraged the celebration of the holiday. However, it would not be until another 50 years, in 1966, when Lyndon Johnson declared the third Sunday of June to be Father's Day, and then 6 years later, Richard Nixon made it a national holiday. Father's Day has always trailed Mother's Day and been compared to it in many ways. It is a time to celebrate fathers all around the world, a time to enjoy what they have done for all of us, and how we have become the people we are because of them. And somehow, this holiday, born in tragedy, grief, and loss, has become extraordinarily important to celebration and happiness, as a good father and a good household is the foundation and bedrock of a good life and a good society. The most recent of American holidays has been Juneteenth. Adopted as a federal holiday only 4 years ago, it has dwelt in the shadows, becoming more and more popular as people have recognized its important and incredible history and legacy. It is the celebration, 160 years old today, of when the final slaves in the Confederacy were freed at Galveston, Texas, when Abraham Lincoln's executive order, the Emancipation Proclamation, was enforced. For 4 years, the Union Army had fought hard in the South, hundreds of thousands dying, in order to crush the Southern Rebellion and the Confederate States of America that wished desperately to preserve their slaves.
The Union Army was victorious at the Battle of Antietam in September of 1862, or close enough to victorious that Abraham Lincoln decided to write an executive order that would change history. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued on January 1, 1863, demanding the freedom of slaves in all southern states. Over the next couple of years, as the war was redirected towards the moral cause of ending slavery, Union troops would routinely free slaves in areas that they liberated from the Confederates. And when Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant on April 9, 1865, the war was over, the Union had won, and the slaves could go free. The conquering of the Confederacy and subsequent military occupation of the South allowed for the Union Army to enforce civil rights for African Americans and free them, such as what Gordon Granger did after freeing Galveston in June of 1865, bringing about the first Freedom Day on June 19th. This holiday found renewed celebration amongst African Americans as they continued to battle for their rights over the next century, fighting against Jim Crow and segregation. The holiday gained more and more steam as more and more people fought for racial harmony in the United States, such as social activist Ben Haif, who designed the first flag for Juneteenth in 1997, with the red, white, and blue having a star in the middle that explodes, showing the explosion of opportunity for freed blacks. President Donald Trump floated the idea of making it a federal holiday in 2020 amidst racial turmoil, but President Biden got the job done in 2021, making Juneteenth a federal holiday. More and more as the years go by, June has become Pride Month, a celebration of LGBTQIA+ people, their lifestyles, and their advocacy for civil rights. This is not because June has been the time when many landmark decisions have been made in favor of LGBTQ couples. As is commonly believed, the Supreme Court always makes decisions in late June, such as the Texas versus Lawrence decision, which overturned the criminality of homosexuality in 2002. The USA versus Windsor decision, which overturned the Defense of Marriage Act and federal restrictions on gay marriage in 2013, or even the Obergefell decision of 2015, which legalized gay marriage in all 50 states. These have all helped, but the gay rights movement goes back even farther. While it is true that gay, bisexual, and transgender people and communities have existed in all civilizations throughout all of history, as the ancients tell us, modern advocacy for homosexuality became popular in a time when advocacy and civil rights was a theme, the 1960s. Amid the chaos and turmoil, riots broke out throughout the United States for many reasons. A series of riots broke out because the Stonewall Inn, a gay bar in Greenwich Village, Manhattan, was raided by the police. The riots, which occurred in late June and early July of 1969, were not only the basis for Pride Month being celebrated in June, but the basis for a huge movement of LGBTQIA acceptance during the 1970s and 80s. The coming out movement also allowed gay people to come out of a closet and express their sexual lifestyles. This led to the form of gay pride parades, at one of which, in June of 1978 in San Francisco, the rainbow flag was used for the first time to be identified with gay pride. The AIDS crisis, which began another June in 1981, predominantly affected gay men, bringing much stigma and criticism. However, the suffering of gay men, especially as AIDS and the AIDS crisis became a disease that affected straight men and women as well, showed the humanity of LGBT people and the need for rights and advocacy on their behalf. This led to more sympathy and understanding, and changing attitudes with changing generations saw more and more acceptance towards gay people's behaviors. These shifting attitudes, coupled with more positive depictions in media and culture, and legal advocacy, gained more and more rights and sympathies towards gay people, culminating in the Obergefell decision, which again granted marriage equality in 2015 between gay and straight people. And as a new generation takes over, the celebrations of the past are mixed with the advocacy for the new inclusions, including transgender and non-binary individuals, as Pride Month has become more and more inclusive of sexual minorities, continually being a celebration that is a linchpin in the month of June.